Hi everyone and welcome to today's video. This is a B1 level reading lesson, and today we're going to be reading a book review of a book called Impossible Knife of Memory. So what kinds of books are these, and what kinds of books do you like to read? And you can put your answers in the comments to generate some conversation. And some of the types of books might be crime or detective, romance, self-help or business advice, biography, zombie, vampire, other horror type books, and classic novels. And where can you find a good book to read? Here is an example of a library, a bookstore, Amazon or other online retailers, or a kiosk, magazine stand, or newsstand. So what can you tell me about this book? So The Impossible Knife of Memory by Laurie Halse Anderson, rating 7 out of 10, category a young adult novel. So we have the title of the book, the author's name. Ratings are usually given by other people who have read the book and indicated whether they liked it or not, and the category tells what kind of book it is. A young adult novel means that it's fiction, and it's usually written in a style that's a little bit easier to read, and so a lot of ESL learners like to read young adult novels because they're not children's books, but they have to do with more adult themes, but the language is a little bit simpler and easy to read. All right, so first we're going to look at some vocabulary words. We have the narrator, a character in a book who is telling the story. Rebellious is someone who doesn't like to follow rules. Authority would be parents, teachers, and other people who make rules. To warm to someone is to slowly start to like someone. Messed up means full of problems. Haunted is disturbed by something strange, such as a ghost. And suspense is a feeling of uncertainty and excitement about what will happen. Now, you can either pause the video and read this review on your own, or you can follow along as I read. The Impossible Knife of Memory begins with an introduction by the narrator, Haley. She thinks that there are only two kinds of people in the world, zombies and freaks. At first, I didn't like Haley very much. She's not a particularly pleasant character. Like most teenagers in literature, she's rebellious and hates all authority. But I warmed to Haley as I progressed through the story. At the beginning of the book, we learned that Haley's family is, well, messed up. Her mother died a while ago, and Haley is haunted by the memories of a woman called Trish. It takes a while until we learn who Trish really is, and a lot of suspense builds up in the book. All right, now we have a few more vocabulary. Post-traumatic stress disorder is a mental illness that can affect people who have experienced a terrible event. To have trouble doing something is to have difficulty doing something. Corny is sentimental, full of predictable feelings, and to relate to someone is to understand someone well or to feel that someone is like you. Actually, the real bad guy, the knife from the book's title, is Haley's father. He has been having a lot of problems since he returned from fighting in Iraq. He can't stop drinking and he can't stop taking drugs, and sometimes he is violent. Haley's dad suffers from post-traumatic stress disorder. The war in Iraq affected him, and he is having a lot of trouble returning to ordinary life. Haley falls in love. I'm not a big fan of romance, but this wasn't too corny. Haley's love interest, Finn, is a little too perfect at first, but eventually I warmed to Finn too. I especially liked Haley's friend Gracie, even though she was not a person I could relate to very well. Gracie and Haley communicate a lot like everyday teenagers, texting back and forth. And the vocabulary word in a nutshell, or phrase in a nutshell, means in summary. In a nutshell, The Impossible Knife of Memory isn't quite as good as Winter Girls, another book by the same author, but it is pleasant to read. It will probably appeal more to female than to male readers, but there's enough real life in the novel for any teenager today. All right, now here's some true-false questions about this book review. You can pause the video and write down your answers, and then restart when you're ready to check. Okay, The Impossible Knife of Memory is a book written for men in their 20s. False. It is written for young adults. The knife is in the title is the father of Haley, the book's narrator. That's true. The review tells us what the difference is between a zombie and a freak. That's false. The review does not mention this, but it says that the main character, Haley, thinks that there are only two types of people in the world, zombies and freaks, but it doesn't define what she means by that. Allison, the author of this review, thinks that most teenage girls would enjoy this book. That's true. And Allison feels like she is very similar to the character called Gracie. That's false. She liked Gracie even though she was not a person that Allison could relate to. All right, so now you can answer these questions. And again, if you would like to, you can put your answers in the comments, or you can simply pause the video, answer the questions, and then restart to check your answers. So what problems does Haley's father have? He is drinking and doing drugs. How does the author of this review describe Haley? So she basically said that she was a typical teenage girl, rebellious, didn't like authority, and not particularly likable at first, not particularly nice. Does the reviewer think this book is better than Winter Girls? She says no, it isn't quite as good. And is this review written in a formal or an informal style? The review is quite informal. It uses language like messed up. And what kind of person wrote this review? Probably a young adult reader, not a professional book critic or journalist, just a teenager who has read the book. And would you like to read The Impossible Knife of Memory? And how do you choose which book that you like to read if you are a reader? And that brings us to the end of today's video. Please like, subscribe, share, participate in the comments, and I will see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.